it's technical secretary, not the general secretary.
So do you want me to read it?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our September Technical Secretary. So our speaker today is Dr. Moda, who is a senior lecturer in occupational safety, health and environment at the Manchester Metropolitan University. He studied at the Federal University of Technology, Yola, in Nigeria, and graduated with B.Tech honors in urban and regional planning, with specialty in environmental assessment in 2001. He then studied for an MSc in instrumental analytical sciences, environmental analysis at the Robert Gordon University, Aberdeen. Also achieved a PhD in environmental health science at Glasgow Caledonian University, as well as a PG diploma in safety and risk management at Strathclyde University, Glasgow. While studying for his PhD at Glasgow Caledonian University, Haruna was involved with the Commercial Food Testing Facility, UCAS laboratory, as instrumental analyst at the Department of Biomolecular Microbiology and Food Sciences within the same university. Upon completion of the PhD, he took up a postdoctoral research position at the Macintosh Environmental Research Architecture Unit at Glasgow School of Art, where he was involved with an EPSRC-funded project on environmental assessment of domestic laundry and other related research activities involving durational monitoring of CO2, humidity, and temperature to assess indoor air quality and building performance. Besides his primary role as a lecturer at the Manchester Metropolitan University, Dr. Moda is also the program lead for MSc Occupational Health, Safety and Environment, as well as postgraduate research lead for Food, Nutrition and Occupational Safety and Health. He is as well the departmental safety coordinator. So thank you very much, Dr. Moda, for honoring our invitation. And you may share your screen and commence your presentation, please.
Right. Thank you very much for the opportunity. And Akilu, thank you very much for putting me on the spotlight. When your call came through, I thought it was just wanting to say hello, but when you stretch out the invite, who am I to say no to you? The relationship has gone far beyond meeting here in Manchester, so thank you very much for that. Well, as the secretary has introduced me, my name is Haruna Moda. I am originally from Nigeria, Gombe State, and I have been in Manchester Metropolitan University far back in 2010. So today, when I was asked, given a blank check to present topic on health and safety, I could not give a definite answer, but I thought it would be good for us to look at a safe working environment in the 21st century, and that is where I'm going to focus my presentation today. So the overview for my presentation, generally, I will be presenting for us to look at the historical events that happened in the 19th century as regards the introduction of some of the health and safety measures that were introduced. And then gradually we'll work our way looking at some of the changes affecting risks and hazards that are introduced as a result of industrialization that happened in the first industrialization down to the third. And time permitting us, we will be looking at the importance of managing safely in the workplace, and also looking at some of the responsibilities that health and safety manager, as well as other stakeholders who should be able to think about in order to make the workplace safe. But I'm glad to hear the president making reference to one single key term which he has used: welfare, well-being, welfare, well-being. And you agree with me, with COVID, These are things that we need to be talking to ourselves about. It has presented us with several forms of challenges, and we just need to put our thinking hard to think about our health and well-being and think about it. Our loved ones are looking up to us, and we aim to make sure that every employer returns back to their loved ones the way they left 9 o'clock in the morning after the close of the day. So let us look at some historical data just to set the scene. If we look at the data from Health and Safety Executive regards the great, I'm using United Kingdom as an example. And what this data is telling us, around 1.6 million working people suffer from work-related illness in the year 2020. And around 111 people were killed between 2019 and 2020. And around 581,000 working people sustained injury, according to Labor Force Survey. And out of these, 65,208 of this injury were reported on the reader. Generally speaking, if we look at this data, it is worrying. And a closer look at the work-related illness, if we x-ray it, what the data is telling us, majority of this work-related illness that has happened fall within stress, depression, and anxiety. And as I have said at the start of my talk, I'm glad that we are talking about welfare and our well-being. Stress is on the increase, and if we look at different sectors in the economy, there is this high rate of stress. As I normally tell my students, I remember when I started my work here at Manchester Metropolitan University, some of the administrative jobs that are within my remit presently, I have never imagined myself doing because there were people that were responsible for that. But gradually things are being shifted to us academic in order to manage it administratively. And we know, I'm pretty sure you will be aware of 1 or 2 persons in your place of work who has signed off sick because of stress, anxiety, or depression. And also, if we look at workplace injury, close to 500,000 people have been injured, which led to about 7 days absence in the place of work. And if we are to convert that into monetary term, you agree with me, a lot of workplace organization, especially the small and medium scale industry, are finding it a little bit hard to cope with this absence of workers for 7 days and above. But what this data is telling us, most of these non-fatal injuries that have been reported within this reporting period of 2019-2020 resolves around slip, trips, and fall, handling and lifting or carrying of objects, leading to things such as musculoskeletal injury. And as I have said earlier on, if we look at this data around work-related stress, depression, what this data is telling us, different sectors present different stress, depression, and anxiety. And from this data, what we can see, electricity, gas, steam, and air conditioning supply amount for around 3,020 of this work-related depression that we have been reported within this financial year. In total, out of this number of working illness, depression that has been reported, 17.9 million working days have been lost in the last reporting year, which if we look at the monetary equivalent of this loss, as I have said earlier, the economy, you agree with me, is becoming a little bit stretched. Employers are now losing 16.2 billion as at 2018 as a result of long-term illnesses that include things around cancer and other long-term illnesses. And another 10.6 million is now being lost as a result of these long latency issues around cancer, which I have said, while around 5.6 billion has been lost as a result of reportable injuries which have been recorded on the reader. So This has now set us to think about how can we make the workplace to be more conducive so as to reduce the financial burden on these employers and also reduce staff turnover in general. But before we delve into looking at some of this, the way forward, what I thought for us to do at this stage is to look at the global statistics around also. Globally, what International Labour Organization are reporting, around 2.3 women and men around the world succumb to work-related accident or disease every year, leading to around 6,000 deaths every single day. Now, let me pause here and just draw attention to an interesting thing. Since I'm talking to Nigerians just like myself, I recall some years back when I traveled back to Nigeria, just after when I think the regime of Obasanjo sold out some of the government properties. It is still fresh in my head. Some of the low-cost housing estates and government residential areas, you agree with me, are all dotted with asbestos material. But if you cast your mind back to what happened during that time, there have been lots of renovation that has taken place. And if you look at the renovation that has taken place and is still ongoing, some of them, no safety measures has been taken into consideration. So, is this a ticking bomb that is about to happen in Nigeria? I think the answer is yes. We know that the latency period for asbestos-related disease is between 20 to 50 years. So what we are now beginning to say here is, if the managers of resources and other key stakeholders do not wake up to their responsibility, we will see a very large prevalence of asbestos-related diseases very soon in that country. So coming back to this data, that tells us that around the 6,000 deaths that have been reported as a result of either accident or diseases in the place of work globally, you agree with me, some of them goes unreported. I've just given us an incident that has happened during that period. But if you x-ray Africa, you x-ray Nigeria carefully, there have been so many undocumented deaths, and sometimes we put a question mark around what has happened. But sometimes we can relate it to either workplace exposure or lifestyle exposure. So worldwide, asbestos, as I have said, kills around 100,000 people every year. And I think this number is just an estimate, which in my own argument, we can project to say there are more people that are being killed as a result of asbestos than what we are seeing here. Younger and older workers are also vulnerable to this. Different age group are exposed to different forms of workplace safety hazard based on the type of work that they expose themselves to. So if we look at history of workplace health and safety using the Great Britain as an example, the earliest legislation that came into being was an attempt to regulate working conditions, which applied to very poor working premises and was more of an extension of the old poor law than conscious attempt in order to regulate the actual workplace itself. So what happened as at that time, health and safety has gradually been pushed in the place of work. And if for some of us that are conversant with the history of industrialization in this country, you will agree with me, child labor was something that was on the rise here, and also women working in manufacturing industry, exposing themselves to different forms of diseases while these children are used in order to get under these machineries where adults could not go into. Some of them have lost their limbs, some of them have been decapacitated, and others have been crushed. And as a result of this movement that came as because of this poor working condition, in 1802, Factory Act in Great Britain was introduced. And part of the movement saw the improvement in the workplace, where it advocates for sufficient windows to be provided in order to enhance ventilation in the workplace, provision of clean sanitation in the workplace, and limiting of working hours for apprentices down to about 12 hours a day, as well as provision of PPE that we have come to know today. Outside that, Other measures that were considered were promoting formal education among these apprentices, including children, in the form of reading, writing, and arithmetic. So several incidents has happened, and we got to where we were with Health and Safety at Work Act ETC of 1974. And with the coming of this act, it placed responsibility on every employer and employee to ensure the health, safety, and well-being of individuals, not only their workers, but people that are accessing their premises. And with the introduction of this act, from 1974 to 2007, around 73% reduction in workplace fatality was recorded, and close to about 70% non-fatal injury were recorded. Now, with this, I posed to ask myself a question which I have put up for us to think about. What lessons can we gain from the last century experience of changing risks at work and legislative responses? What does it tell us about the world of work that we are in today and that we are leading ourselves into? And will the fourth industrial revolution, which started around 2011 or 2010, depending on the source of information that is available to us, a good or omen for our safety and health in the place of work? These are things that I want us to think about, and also look at the way the work environment has changed from where we were in the 17th century to where we are today. So irrespective of our answer, I believe there will be many challenges we have to navigate and risks for us to understand and advance control before these revolutionary changes is being completed. So, as I have said, the first revolution, industrial revolution, we know that was the introduction of mechanization, water power, steam power were being introduced. 100 years down the line, we now began to see mass production assembly line, electricity being rolled out, and then another 100-year plus, we now began to see the introduction of computer and automation in the place of work. And today, I'm glad I'm speaking to engineers. And I know some of us are working in industry that are embracing this fourth industrial revolution, where we are seeing cyber physical systems now interacting. So future changes to the world of work and the impact of employee safety, health, and well-being are part of the conclusion that we now need to start thinking about. People are living longer and the working pattern is changing. Many tasks are being automated. Modern communication technology are dissolving the work and home divide. New materials like nanotechnology, including tiny airborne waste products, are now all over in the work environment. And also new techniques can present new risks. With an increasing use of more flexible employee contracts, this gave us the chance for us to begin to think about the risks that are associated with the new world of work, because these things are changing and we need to respond to it in order to eliminate or minimize some of these risks. So if we look at the Industrial Revolution and some of the technological categories and the aspect of occupational health that I want to focus on, you will agree with me in the area of simulation, big data, Internet of Things, cyber physical system, artificial intelligence. There's that need for us to begin to think about the work organization, what form of legislative and regulatory framework inform the kind of work we should be doing, and also what type of management systems are we considering in our place of work, while also ensuring that we have adequate management system to cater for these occupational risks that are beginning to surface in the place of work. So, having said that, a proactive approach to risk assessment at the design or early stage of innovative application and the adoption of suitable management strategies for protection of workers is absolutely needed now that organizations are embracing this new industrial revolution. So I have just put up some few examples just to drive home some of the industrial risks that are associated, or rather emerging workplace risks associated with some of the industrial revolution that we begin to see. Workspace design and the use of cobots. Think about it here in the UK. Most of our workplaces have to adapt from the buildings that we are working in. We have to rethink about how we redesign them in order to introduce some of the machineries that we are working with. And depending on the building type that you find yourself in, we critically seriously need to think about how we design our workspace in order to make sure the interaction between human and machine, there is that flexibility. Otherwise, accidents and incidents are bound to happen. Also, with this industrial revolution comes the use of technology, which presents psychosocial impact and musculoskeletal condition. Now, let's pause here. I'm pretty sure if all of us are not parents, we are uncles and aunties among us. And let us observe our children at home, how the use of technology is presenting psychosocial impact in their life. Today, during this lockdown, we find ourselves talking to machines rather than humans. That presents itself with this psychosocial impact. How can we manage the mental health of our workers? It is important. During the lockdown, I recall we were asked to take our laptops and some of our equipment home to work from home for the past 18 months, and that has been the tradition. Halfway the journey, a lot of the staff began to show symptoms of musculoskeletal condition. And as safety coordinator of the department, the task was saddled on my shoulder to think of how we can resolve this issue. And part of the immediate solution we came up with is to recommend to the department to allow others to take some of their desks and chairs back home and create an office-like scenario to avoid lying on their bed, sitting on their couch, trying to work around their system on this surface which are not designed for office work. Green job and extreme climate is also something that is presenting itself. Presently, if not because of climate change, we should have seen the snow on the floor now. But we know that the weather is changing. We see extreme events happening, and green jobs, a lot of people are out there working in that industry, exposing themselves to this extreme weather. How prepared are we as organizations to offer them with the needed safety measures in order to work to make their work a little bit easy? Apart from these green jobs, let's think about our old traditional jobs that we know that most workers are working outdoors, such as construction industry, agriculture, fisheries, etc. They have to face this extreme climate, and that also presents itself. New equipment, new machineries have been introduced. Have we taken this extreme climate into consideration at the design stage? I'm glad I'm talking to engineers. Nanotechnology are gradually finding their ways into the work environment. And I'm glad when I saw the logo of Manchester University hosting this event. And I know you have this graphene center, which is centered around these nanomaterials. These are all issues that we need to think about in terms of the associated health to the workers, as well as others that are using the building or the premises, if we are to fall back to Health and Safety at Work Act 1974. So those are things outside social issues, which I have highlighted here around sedentary lifestyle, obesity, mental health, stress, which is all being presented because now we are interacting with machine rather than human. We all need to think about it. But just before I move forward, not only are there physiological considerations that we need to think about here, but also there are other potential impact that we need to think of. Because presently, you will agree with me, 5 generations are now working under the same roof. We have the traditionalists, the baby boomers, Generation X, millennials, Generation Alpha or Generation Z, as you prefer to call it. all interacting in this place of work. And you will agree with me, life experiences, expectation of work, diverse attitude to technology, working practice, and lifestyle of this group of people differs. We have five generations under the same roof. There is that need for us to consider their health and safety, well-being, which it differs generally. So to try to draw the talk to conclusion, because I have been allocated just 30 minutes, I thought let me look at some of these innovative technology that have been introduced in the place of work. And I decided to look around. There are over 8 that I could identify, but I'm going to center my talk on these 4. Robots and cobots, what are their hazards? Potentially mechanical, electrical, noise, vibration, radiation, ergonomic, and organizational hazards are associated with this. And you will agree with me, as engineers, exoskeletons are now gradually being introduced into the place of work, and they present hazards in the form of electrical, thermal, noise, vibration, down to organizational. Obviously, augmented reality and virtual reality are things that are being used across different sectors now. Things that we need to start thinking about in terms of their hazards are chemical, biological, ergonomic, work environment, organizational, and psychological hazard alongside others. I know Amazon, was it Amazon or Google? One of these giant companies were pioneering the use of these automated guided vehicles, trying to introduce it as a substitute to conventional vehicles. And now we are beginning to see the use of drone in the delivery of services. And all of these present them different forms of hazard, which also mirrored similar to others that I have highlighted here. And each of these hazards present potential risks, and the implication there are several, which I have listed here on this slide, ranging from crushes to cutting, down to entanglements, and introduction of hand-arm vibration if we continue to use some of these things without much consideration to the safety measures, while musculoskeletal diseases are also issues that across these 4 examples are possible implication to occupational health that are likely to come. So, why health and safety hazards are not solely attributed to this new set of technologies that are introduced to the work environment. However, what I am saying here is there are evidence that are relating to the significant health and safety hazards, which present workers that are exposed to this type of new technology, to new forms of risks. So the need here is for us to effectively assess these risks and advance needed measures aimed at protecting the health and well-being of every employee that is under our responsibility. Now, to conclude, I'm just going to use this theory to draw our attention to the hidden cost to employers. Many a times, workplace accident and ill health costs can be linked to this iceberg theory, where we are now looking at the surface at the very top. We are thinking the insured cost has covered everything. But HSE are saying between 8 to 36 pounds is what is costing every employee for £1 of insurance that they have paid out, either in the form of sick pay, lost output, repairs, excess of insurance, and the example continue to go on and on. So in simple terms, what you can see above the surface is insignificant to that below the surface. To argue for change in the workplace brought about by the 4th Industrial Revolution, evidence must be at the heart of everything we do. There's that need for us to think about it right at the very beginning of the design phase, to try to see how we can eliminate, if we can, to reduce the hazard or the risks that are associated to these technologies that are gradually finding their way into the workplace. So as my friend and my brother Achilo have introduced myself, I just wanted to conclude by telling you a little bit about myself, what I have been doing in the last couple of years. I have designed my research team in 3 areas, and what I have been doing is looking at global occupational health and safety issues within informal sectors, construction, mining, and agricultural sectors, especially in low and middle income countries. Those are where my interest lies. And also looking at the impact of climate change on health and safety of outdoor workers, as well as exposure assessment of airborne pollutants in the place of work. And of present, I have 6 PhD students, which I am working with as a principal supervisor, ranging from oil and gas, health sector, down to the garment industry, all looking at different works within the realm of health and safety. And other projects that I am working with associates in Nigeria and other parts of the world include looking at a relationship between safety attitude and hazard recognition within the construction sector. We are working with associates in ABU Zaria, and also looking at some of the barriers that is affecting construction workers from reporting accidents in the place of work with other associates from University of Jos, and in Abu Dhabi University, where I'm working with some researchers there. We're looking at the impact of these face masks and environmental health and health impact associated with it. Another project that we are trying to get it off the ground is to look at the exposure of respirable crystalline silica dust among stone quarry workers in Nigeria. The idea there is to see how we can integrate this technology to enhance workplace safety behavior. Thank you very much for listening, and I am open for any question or deliberation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Haruna. I think that's a very sound insight into health and safety, more in particular, bringing in the 4th Industrial Revolution. Thank you so much. I think it's question time. I don't think I've seen any question on the chat box yet, but in case I've missed it, Akilu, please help me if there's any. If there's no question there, I may just...
There isn't, to be honest. I did ask, but I don't think anyone has posted anything yet.
Okay, maybe I should start. I can ask one to our guest speaker, Dr. Haruna. I struggle to see whether the 4th Industrial Revolution will be of benefit to us as a country in Nigeria, okay? Because if we assume that we are operating in a manual environment, the Industrial Revolution is trying to make us become more sophisticated. At the minute, our health and safety record is very, not very good, particularly around building collapse around the country. The perception around construction industry in particular is one of the main culprits in terms of health and safety. When I speak to employers and contractors, they tend to see that cost is the main challenge for them, that the cost of running a safe site and profit margin doesn't allow them to maybe invest in training and all of that will prevent it. So I wonder, in your experience, what do you think we can do to try to correct this perception?
Okay, thank you very much. I think you have raised 2 issues there. You are talking about the 4th Industrial Revolution and how it benefits Nigeria as a nation. And yes, I agree with you. At this particular time, the 4th Industrial Revolution is dragging its feet in the shores of Africa, especially Nigeria. But one thing that I believe, we need to prepare ourselves. You will agree with me. Nigeria is it's like a big brother in Africa. And you will agree with me, Nigeria has potential to grow. All we need is good leaders. I'm not here to speak politics, but I am pretty sure when we get it right, we want to move in this direction. But we need to prepare ourselves in order so that jump frog, leap forward when the time comes to make sure that we have a prepared workforce ready to and capable to respond to this technology. But presently, the gig economy has also offered another opportunity to Nigerians, where you find people now are working remotely using their smart devices in order to transact their businesses and do all sorts of activity there. And remember, as I have said during my conversation, we are now dealing with 5 generations under one roof. And part of this 5 generation, I think the millennials and the Generation Z, you cannot take away some of this technology away from them. Then we now need to start thinking about how can we deploy safety message to make sure that we do not see robots walking around the street and creating all sorts of accidents. Because you will agree with me, every now and then, these young lads are working, their hands are operating these devices. So that is one thing that we need to do. But I strongly believe we will catch up with this technology. All that we need is just the political and political space to be conducive. Investors are willing to move into that direction. Now you have talked about the construction industry in terms of building lack of training as a result of cost and other things. I think to me, what there are several factors that we can look at why health and safety in the construction sector is not strong in Nigeria. One, we have a very weak regulatory framework in Nigeria. You agree with me in terms of health and safety. And also we have people that are working in silo. Today, if you go to Nigeria ministry, you'll find Federal Ministry of Labor having Department of Occupational Safety and Health. If you go to Ministry of Health, you find similar people doing similar job there. You go to different ministries, but nobody is talking to themselves. So not until we begin to talk to ourselves that we need a strong regulatory body where we go to site and make sure the right thing is being done, what you have mentioned will continue to be the case. Yes, training is something that it's not is not taken into consideration within the construction sector, partly because we do not have a strong regulatory body. Everybody is a builder in Nigeria. You agree with me, if you want to build a house, if I want to build a house in my village, I don't need to go anywhere. My next door neighbor will dig the floor and the next person will put the block on the, start putting the block. So these are some of the challenges. These people are not trained, but because we have weak regulation, there is no certification. Anybody can jump onto this construction site, and with the same clothes that this individual come to site, possibly is the same clothes that they go back home with, thereby not only exposing themselves to accident, but taking foreign objects back to their homes, exposing their loved ones to it. And that was why I drew our attention to this aspect of asbestos. I'm pretty sure if we are to take a little bit of survey, most of our indoor houses are dotted with this asbestos fiber, not because they are present there, but one way or the other, they find their way into this environment because of this weak regulation.
Thank you so much, Haruna. Akilu, is there any other question, or if anybody has a question?
Yes, there are a few I could.
Okay, please help me read, please, Akilu, please. Thank you.
So someone has asked, or someone has mentioned that electrical accidents seem to be prevalent at workplaces. Are there measures that could help in mitigating these high-risk hazards globally? Also, what power do workers' union have when it comes to protecting workers at workplaces in the UK and globally?
Okay. Yeah. Let's take the electrical accidents. I know out here in the UK, I don't know where this question is coming from, but if Adeleye, you are based here in the UK and you check your office, maybe office plug, you will see what is called part test, which means every time interval, this equipment have to be checked to make sure that they all pass the needed safety measures. These are all measures that are being put alongside others out here in the UK to make sure that this electrical electrocution does not happen alongside others. But also, it is the responsibility of the health and safety officer or the delegated somebody with the responsibility of looking out at the facility to make sure that some of these equipment or rather this equipment are fit for purpose. Now, I know our time is fast spent. I will jump into the next one. What power do workers' union have when it comes to protecting workers at workplaces in the UK and globally? I think we can break this into two parts. In the UK, I can say for sure the workers have the needed power to push for change. But if we look at Nigeria, say for example, some of these powers, I think to me, is not as strong as what we have in the UK here. Organization now are setting up health and safety union meetings where they have reps coming from either the working union or different departments within organization are being represented at this board, where they bring in their health and safety concern, and this is now being looked into. And one other thing that HSC is pushing for among health and safety workers is also not only for us to begin to think about the technical skills, but for us to think about some of these soft skills that we will become advocates when we get into the boardroom in order to make our employers or CEOs see the need to put safety above production. And those are some of the tools that are now being pushed from the professional body, and also other organizations are pushing to have representative on the health and safety board so that all concerns can be taken on board.
So
Okay.
Yeah, there's another question. Well, the two questions are related. So one is, do we have any safety framework or act in Nigeria? That's, I know it's a yes. But related to that is, it would be interesting to read about work and safety regulations and their effect within the workplace in Nigeria. Is there currently research being done in this area?
Yes, they are, but they are very, they are being done at this micro level, and that is one of the challenge that we have. And what we are trying to push is for us to break this south and north divide in terms of publication of some of this work. And I consciously reflected on my academic journey, and hence the need why I align my research to low and middle income countries. And I think in the last couple of years, most of my publication has been with other researchers in developing countries, especially Nigeria, so as to see how best we can cover this south versus north divide in terms of accessibility to this information. So some of this research that are out there are at micro level, somebody looking at an organization of 5, 10 people in quote, or 100 people in quote. But we do not have a large scale research that has been done in the workplace in order to look at the work and safety regulation and their effect within the workplace. I can say for sure I have not come across this. Yes, we have the framework, but if you look at our framework reflect the health and safety executive document that you can find here because of the colonial lineage. So I think to me sometimes it's a cut and paste that we have done, but we have not pushed this framework in order to be more effective in the place of work.
Thank you. I just want to, in the absence of any other one, I may just ask one here. For me, I think one thing that has always been like a myth to me is how organizations are, or what the plans organizations have for integrating a true health and safety management system. So we always say health and safety, but what I found in most organizations, not only in Nigeria, to be honest, is safety. Now, the health is usually, I understand it's a little bit more difficult to monitor, but again, that is the major killer. So I would like to hear your view on what you think the approach might be on proper integration and monitoring of health as well as safety in the workplace.
Health surveillance is what is being promoted, especially in high-risk industry. And you agree with me, before you start your job in University of Manchester, you have done this, what do you call it, induction, where you fill out this health surveillance form. Whether it has been followed up, these are some of the weaknesses that we need to think about. But industries with high risk industry, depending on the health concern, let's say people exposed to lead or people exposed to other forms of pollutants in the place of work, the regulations speculate the number of time per year that individual needs to present themselves for health screening, so as to make sure that that individual does not present any long-term illness. And if for any reason that particular individual may be lead, for example, let's use it as an example, he or she present high level of lead in his blood or urine sample, then we need to start thinking about how best to manage or to manage his the type of work this particular individual is being given in the place of work. But you have touched on something at the start of your question. You were talking about health and safety management system. Now, this is something that we need to look at it for carefully. What is the rationale behind developing this health and safety management system? Any organization that want to be proactive to save the lives of their workers will be proactive once they put this management system in place. But if for any political reason, organizations are going for logo with ISO 45001 or 18001 or 9001, depending on what type of management system we are talking about. So those type of management system, at the end of the day, if it is not properly managed and not properly put in place, then the effort will be defeated. So in my opinion, health is being put at the forefront. Even COVID has exposed the need for health surveillance in the place of work. And I'm glad that Obux, when he started his talk, he's talking about the well-being and health of our members here. And that is what is now being promoted in the place of work.
Thank you. I can't see any other question.
Okay, maybe I can just ask a quick follow-up one. Dr. Moda, please.
Yes, sir.
Some of us didn't go to school. When you say health management system, can you please simplify it to us? Because we have people who run small businesses. For the big organization, they may understand the language, but for small organizations, can you please simplify to us, please, sir?
Okay, when we are talking about management system, it's very simple. We are not talking about space rocket science here, but we are talking about you carrying out your health and safety audit in the place of work. You have done your gap analysis, identified what are the hazards, what are the risks, and you have developed your management system in order to control these hazards. And there is that need for you to periodically, if you are conversant with the ISO standard, we are making reference to this plan, do, check, act, to periodically check the system to make sure that the system is responding. Say, for example, if we have a system and operate a machinery in the place of work, And our risk assessment or SOP that we have designed is centered towards that standard operating procedure is centered on this old machinery. If you are introducing a new machine in the place of work, there's that need for us now to risk assess this new machine to make sure that we understood the hazard or the risks that are now being, the new hazard or risks that are now being introduced, and we come up with a good plan on how best to manage these hazards in the place of work. So it is not a space rocket science. We can design it on our Excel sheet or whatever and try to make sure that we keep on top of this business. But as I have said, organization can go for this certification to put this logo to say, yes, we are certified, but they are not doing the rates, they are not responding to it. Hence, you will see the impact. There will be high workforce turnover in that organization. But when you have a good management system, workers will be happy, production will continue, and everybody will go home happy. And then we'll have a safe working environment where productivity will be the business of the day.
Thank you so much, Dr. Moda, for educating me. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, sir. If no questions, then maybe we can pass back to Engineer Patrick. We don't need to maybe recognize the members who are here then before inviting General.
Yeah, can I just say thank you very much to my president for Command Secondary School, Jos, Razak Elegbede, for taking time out to join me on this platform. He's not an engineer, but when I mentioned this, I could see he has taken time to join. So I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Dr. Moda.
Thank you.
Okay, so I want to join our guest speaker in thanking Mr. Razak Elegbede. Is it true? I'm not sure what the title is, but I know it's something special. Yeah, so we also want to thank one of the very big wigs here, Engineer Kunle Adebajo. Arup, I think he's the MD of Arup in Nigeria. That's a very big organization within construction. We also recognize Engineer Professor Ademola Bello Adisa. Thanks for joining us. We've got our two previous guest speakers here as well. Professor Abdullahi Masood, thanks for joining us. And the engineer, Dr. Nabila Rufai, thanks also for joining us. We recognize all members of the branch. Thank you all. So we call on the General Secretary to give the vote of thanks. And yeah, for the vote of thanks to the guest speaker. Thank you. Sorry, I'm breaking up because of the echo here. So I'm hearing the feedback on myself. I'm having to pause. It's quite uncomfortable. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer Patrick. And I would like to say a big thank you to Dr. Moda for honoring our invitation. Thanks for your well-researched and interesting presentation on safe working environment in the 21st century. I think you presented very interesting statistics, but I think I would like to see statistics post-COVID, because COVID has, as we know, has increased stress levels on employees. So it would be good to see like before COVID and after COVID starts. So thank you so much for your time, and it's also interesting to see the interesting projects you are working on, and we look forward to future collaborations, and we hope that when we call on you again, you will answer. And thank you to all our participants here present. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, General Dr. Irene Okade. One quick to mention is Dr. Moda. You'll be getting your digital certificates from our technical secretary, Dr. Akilu. So he'll be in touch with you. Thank you.
Dr. Moda, once again, I join my members in warmly thanking you. I think this is a good start to the second half of the year, I should say, because we seem to have finished this technical session bang on time. What we normally do, we progress from the technical session into our general meeting, where we spend time to discuss welfare and well-being of members and other matters arising. You are more than welcome to join us, because by default, you're a member of NSC Manchester branch, because you are a sister university across the road. So we want to continue to have you as part of our membership team, please. So without much ado, I think we'll transition to general meeting, and please, one and all, welcome to join. We'll try to be brief. We should not exceed 30 minutes in that general meeting.